This regular meeting of the Aurora Board of Education is called to order. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Wallace, please call the roll.
Mrs. Mahalis.
Here.
Mrs. Click.
Here.
Mr. Cebulski. Here. Mr. Acom.
Here.
Mrs. Schneider.
Here.
All right, we begin tonight's meeting with special reports and recognitions. Tonight we have two students with us from the high school who are being recognized as Rotary Students of the Month. They are Liliana Tomasco and Mason Turano. May I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second?
Mr. Volleson, please call the roll.
Mrs. Click.
Yes.
Mr. Cebulski.
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis.
Yes.
Mr. Acom.
Yes.
And Mrs. Schneider.
Yes.
All right, students, would you please come forward and I'll give you your certificates. All right, Mr. Hayes, would you please introduce the students?
Board of Education for allowing us to shine a spotlight on two amazing seniors. We're going to start tonight by recognizing Mason with a few sentences from his teachers. Science teacher Ms. Vero said, "Mason is the ultimate learner with an energetic personality. He's ready for the challenge of the toughest classes and is willing to work very hard to succeed. Yet this ambition doesn't come at the expense of others. He's always happy to check in on his fellow classmates with a smile and with encouraging words, offering a helping hand whenever needed." AP Stats teacher Mr. Baskowski said, "Mason was one of my statisticians last year, and without questions, he was one of the superstars. He was the lone junior in a class full of seniors, and yet was probably the go-to guy for me in class. I knew that if the class metaphorically got stuck in the ditch, he'd be able to get us out. His work ethic was phenomenal. On top of his clear academic excellence, the kid is just an all-around good guy. He still stops in to say hello from time to time, and that simple gesture is worth its weight in gold." Mason's counselor, Ms. Roach, said, "Mason's kindness and humility shine through with everything he does. He is deeply committed to helping others and serving his community. As the leader of his youth ministry, he describes himself as a spiritual role model and a leader, helping kids in our community and coordinating with ministries to plan events. His faith plays a significant role in his life and motivates his selflessness and service to others." And Mr. Rakow, math teacher, said, "Mason is enthusiastic and expressive about his learning. He never hesitates to ask or answer questions or make it known if something doesn't make sense to him. He's willing to spend a long time on his work, redoing problems when necessary until he attains correct results and ensures his understanding. He's always personable and polite and has a great sense of humor. He's generous, once arriving to a review session with enough donuts for all students in attendance." Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to welcome Mr. Mason Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Hayes, for the warm introduction. First of all, I'd like to thank the Rotary Club members and the Board of Education for this award and this amazing opportunity. I'd also like to thank my mom, dad, and grandma for being here today and supporting me. As my senior year comes to a close, this award has given me the opportunity to reflect on my high school career and to learn more about Rotary Club, their values, and what they do. I was amazed at what Rotary has done, not only for our local community, but for the world as a whole. For example, Rotary helps spread awareness of the need for the polio vaccine. It makes the vaccine more accessible for children in need, especially in Africa. Rotary also impacts our local children by enhancing education and making learning more hands-on and fun, especially academic. These are just a few of the many things Rotary has done throughout the world. Through this, their works in me reflect on what I've done in my own community, which includes my participation in truly loves being here, not for his sake, but for ours as well. As I move forward in life, I plan to carry these valuable lessons with me. I recently committed to Lehigh University, where I plan on studying chemical engineering, and I later hope to raise a big family at home after college. I want to again express my gratitude to the Board of Education for allowing me to speak and for Rotary Club for this award. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Mason, and next we have Liliana. So I'm going to start with sentiments expressed from AP Environmental teacher, Mrs. Megan Pott. She said, Liliana is a student with an infectious personality. She has filled my classroom with countless smiles and a substantial amount of laughter. She also approaches life with a serene calmness and humility. She's a great example of resilience in our student body, and there's nothing that can rattle her. I am truly honored to have been her teacher, and I value each conversation we have in class as well as in the lunchroom. She is authentic and unapologetically herself, and so deserving of this honor. AP Stats teacher, Ms. Bez, said, Liliana is just an all-around great person. She's not afraid to take on challenges. For example, trying to defend 30-plus shots a game as the goalie for her lacrosse team, or working through a very rigorous AP Stats curriculum. She always demonstrates a positive attitude, even in some of the worst of times. On top of all that, I think she's my go-to when I need to get some sports knowledge. I swear she could be a sports analyst at ESPN. Mrs. Foster said, Lily is the Interact Club secretary. With over 220 members, she did a great job documenting over 2,000 service hours for our members in a timely fashion. She spends countless hours documenting other students' volunteer hours and attendance at meetings, and without her meticulous notes, it would be challenging for me to write student recommendations, scholarships, and recommendations such as this. She spent a Saturday with the Interact Club in December working all day on a Habitat for Humanity house. She participates in our bake sales and assisted the sports boosters with stocking the grill. She's quiet in nature, but big in helping others. Lastly, English teacher Mrs. Lindsay said, when I reflect on Liliana, what distinguishes her from other students is her strength. Her internal strength in knowing who she is and what she believes in. Her unwavering intellectual strength in the classroom as she works to grow as a reader and a writer. Most importantly, her strength as a role model, demonstrating to others that true leadership comes from doing the right thing, leading by example, and always working hard to get better each and every day. It's my pleasure to introduce Liliana Tomasko.
I would like to start out with the absolute biggest thank you to the Rotary Club of Aurora, its members, the Aurora Board of Education, and the teachers for recognizing me tonight. I cannot thank you nearly enough for providing me with every opportunity possible, making everything that we do in Aurora possible. And to my parents who have inspired me to step up
thank you, students. We'll take a minute for pictures. Again, thank you so much in coming and sharing about yourselves tonight. And families, if you'd like to leave anytime, you're fine to do that. Okay, moving on. We had no one sign up for a public comment, so we will move to the approval of minutes. We had two special meetings in March, March 6th and March 10th, and then our regular meeting on March 17th. May I have a motion, please, to approve the minutes?
Moved.
Are there any comments or additions, questions? All right, Mr. Volleson, please call the roll.
Mrs. Schneider,
Yes.
Mrs. Click,
Yes.
Mr. Sabolsky,
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis,
Yes.
Mr. Acom.
Yes.
All right, minutes are approved as written. And next, we will move to the superintendent and assistant superintendent reports.
All right, thank you. I have the opportunity to open things up and give you a couple updates. First, the annual Fill-A-Bag and Feed a Family community event that the schools participate in each year will be taking place this weekend. Record number of our families and individuals have been visiting our local food bank this year, so now more than ever there is that need. So this is another example of the many school community connections we've nurtured as several of our school groups, such as Interact Club and Service Learning, along with some of the sports teams like football and soccer, help with this particular event. So it's a great event. We also have been sharing with the community that less than 1 week from today, on May 6, 2025, as people travel to the polls, they'll see the Aurora City School District has placed a 5.61 renewal operating levy on the ballot. We are reminding folks that the levy has been renewed by the community 6 times prior to first being placed in the ballot in 1990. Even though the school district receives the same amount of money as it did in 1990, the levy actually cost taxpayers a little bit less because when it was first approved, because there are now more houses in Aurora to spread the cost over. So these funds are nonetheless important as they do go towards the day-to-day operations of the school, and because the levy is a renewal, this means that there will be not an increase in taxes, so getting the word out from there. So speaking of funding schools, I wanted to bring something to the board and the community's attention that I suspect might not be on the radar. The Ohio legislators are currently discussing the next biennium budget in Columbus, and several items have a potential to negatively affect the Aurora City schools. So as you know, the Aurora City Schools currently receives only about 18.6% of its revenue from the state. And this puts a heavy burden on our community in the form of property taxes and demonstrates why the way Ohio schools are funded has been ruled unconstitutional by the Ohio Supreme Court. Now, unfortunately, the current proposal from the Ohio House of Representatives removes the bipartisan Fair School Funding Plan that was designed to allow schools to be funded in line with the state constitution, expectations anyway. So in the House version, the budget the Aurora Schools is slated to receive an increase of $56,000 from the state in 2025-26, which is about a 1.1% increase. And then $28,000 in the next year in 26-27, and that equates to a little over a 0.5% increase. So I'd like to point out that neither of these state supports come close to keeping up with inflation, but they'll tell you that it is an increase in funding. So at the same time, the House is putting a 30% carryover cap in place that limits the amount of funds public schools can have set aside for future projects and needs. Now, because we run such a tight budget in Aurora, thanks to Bill's guidance, we currently have a 29% carryover balance, which means we will not have funds taken away by the state for next year. However, we are projected to be over that 30% cap for the following year. So this means that we'll have funds previously collected and approved by the community removed from the school district. This will force Aurora and other school districts to choose between cutting programs and staff or going back to the community more often to ask for our financial support in the form of a school levy. So that is another concern. And the last concern we have in the budget is that the funding for public school kids who make up close to 90% of the children in Ohio was only increased in this bill by $226 million relative to public funds set aside for universal school vouchers that will go towards 10% of Ohio students who attend private schools which was increased to approximately $500 million in the House budget, increased by $500 million in the House budget. Actually, it's going to be over $1 billion that are set aside for that. So we are making sure that our state representative, Steve Demetrio, and State Senator Christina Rogner are aware of how the changes in Columbus are impacting the kids in Aurora. Earlier in the year, Paul Milsatich, Mike Hayes, and I shared many of these concerns with Representative Demetrio after he accepted our invitation to visit Aurora High School. And last week, I, along with a group of superintendents and treasurers from Portage County, met with Senator Rogner. Now, this is not the end of the budget process. Once the House approves the budget recommendations, it moves to the Senate, where more changes and recommendations will be made. And then following the Senate recommendations comes the conference committee, where legislators from the House and Senate meet to make final decisions. And then the budget goes back to the governor for a final line item review and then his signature. So the budget will be set to come out July 1, 2025. So we will continue in the meantime to advocate for young people attending the Aurora City Schools in the form of letters, emails, and phone calls. But to be honest, our legislators are tired of hearing from superintendents like me. But they will listen if they hear from our families. So I have also encouraged folks in the community to consider reaching out to Representative Demetrio and Senator Rogner to also share their thoughts and concerns about the budget. Any questions in relation to the budget or any of the other things I've mentioned?
No, but we appreciate your efforts in this regard very much. Thank you.
The one thing, there are a lot of superintendents and school districts that are sending the messages out as well, because it is something of a concern for public education. So hopefully the word will be out and heard.
Right.
So, okay, and that completes my portion of the reports.
Thank you.
Okay, I will take the next portion of the reports and then pass it off to Mrs. Neisen for the Layton building goals. So as the board knows, sometimes in my role, I have reports that are flexible, and other reports are sort of annual or seasonal, depending on things that just are important to report back about. And this is sort of one of those seasonal or annual ones, which is about testing season. So wanted to give the board an update of what's going on in March, April, and May with that obligation. I like to always give the disclaimer. We know what we're all about in this district. We know we're about Aurora learners future ready and nurturing those competencies in the process of learning, but we also expect while doing that we will get positive outcomes with that approach on these assessments. So more will be on that later in terms of how things go, but I do want to talk about sort of the strain of testing season each year. It is, quite honestly, it's a monster. In terms of everything that goes on. And so I just want to talk to you about what's going on in all the different buildings, all the different people involved, and just sort of some of those updates. So we'll start out with, you can see up on the slides there, some of the things that have been going on, actually even before March. Those are some of the required assessments. So COGAT in Iowa, that is really a gifted obligation. That's Becky Quinn, our new gifted coordinator, doing testing at 2nd grade and 5th grade. Which are required bands for gifted testing. So Becky's done a great job with that, working with the principals and working with the teachers to make sure that was completed. We also have OELPA testing, which is for our EL students in terms of assessing if they need plans or potentially exiting English language learner plans. So that's Liz Flannery and Stacy Levy also working with teachers to complete those assessments. We also have alternative assessments and alternative OELPA, and that'd be Mr. Maglianico, Mr. Torres, all of the special education students involved with that process throughout the district. And then now we're about another week or so in the OST testing process, OST, EOC, take your pick. We still have a lot of people who call them air assessments, and as I've stated, that was an old vendor. They're no longer air assessments, so they are OSTs or EOCs. So that is obviously all, Layton, Harmon, and the high school, and that's obviously a huge testing obligation. I'll talk more about that in a moment, and then finishing with advanced placement, and also talk about that as a featured assessment. And obviously that's that's at the high school, and we have a ton of students involved with that. So just a little bit on the OST assessments. I know hopefully some of this is a reminder. Bless you. Some of this is a reminder to our board and those, but I do want to just bring it up. that with the OSTs, that starts in grade 3 at Layton, then continues through Harmon and in the high school. And you can see up there English and math, except for we add science in 5th and 8th. And then obviously we have our OSTs at the high school, and those are listed below. Just a quick a reminder that for students to graduate, they need to have a competency score, which is actually different from Passage, in ELA 2 and Algebra 1. They also use some of those other assessments to earn their seals. You know, they have to have a couple of seals as part of graduation. And there's probably about half or so of our students each year who do not take the government and U.S. history assessments because they take AP U.S. government or AP U.S. history and earn it through that way. And those are actually included in our performance index now as well. So that is, quite the testing season going on there. And one thing about APs, but also the OSTs, it's really gotten more complicated recently. We do have, as I think you know, more students on 504s and IEPs, and there's just an enhanced obligation in terms of small group assessment, one-on-one with some of those accommodations. So it is a large undertaking as it is, but that has made it more complicated in terms of just every nook and cranny and space and staff member and technology available just to try to make this happen. So I do want to give a shout out to all those people, but it is definitely a large undertaking and getting seemingly more complicated by the year. Moving on to AP exams. So I keep on saying that each year we can't continue to have that many classes and that many students taking AP exams. However, somehow we've managed to actually give over 1,000 assessments again, or I guess for the first time at the high school. So really just amazing if you think about 27 classes, 1,000 students taking, or 1,000 tests given. Remember, we only have about 960 students. So I've always said anything over that sort of 1-to-1 ratio is just really impressive. So it's not always going to be like that. Sometimes we have smaller classes, AP Music Theory, for example, that rotates as sort of every other year. But a really monster year for the APs, and you can see from May 5th to May 16th, every single day in the morning and afternoon. So that's also, counselors, we bring in subs and specific staff members or trade just so we can give those assessments. But it is amazing that many students took on those challenges, grew in those courses, took on that challenge. So really proud of them and all the staff members. And then a final note, I definitely want to make sure I say this publicly and on video and for everyone. Obviously I know I am the district testing coordinator, and that's, one of my obligations. However, couldn't do it with all those people up on the screen there. The principals are amazing. We have counselors involved, secretaries, all the teachers proctoring. We have para-educators taking students. We have MTSS coordinators. We hire subs. Our tech staff has been awesome. It's never really been smoother in terms of the Wi-Fi and the devices. So knock on wood, it's gone very smoothly this year. We haven't even had any state vendor glitches, which is always a nice thing. So just appreciative of all the hard work and all the people who have gotten, so good at this process, and it's like a well-oiled machine. So I just want to thank all of them for everything they do, and say that in front of the board too, so you understand that this is truly a team effort. So any questions on all things testing or anything in the report before I turn it over to Michelle?
I just want to thank you for your oversight on the testing and the hiring and everything you're doing. And I know that in your preparation to become superintendent and your desire to hit the ground running on day one, along with completing all your tasks as curriculum director, you've been double timing it and making some sacrifices with your family. So we appreciate everything you're doing.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate you
And
saying that.
Mike, I know that you are trying to find that balance between handing over the reins and still being responsible, and so we appreciate you too. I know I sometimes say, who do I call? Do I call? So,
Thank you, Pam.
okay.
Michelle, do you want to, I'll bring the clicker over to you. Get started.
Thank you for having me this evening. It's nice to be able to talk a little bit about our Layton Building goals. So last time we met, I talked a little bit about the Layton Goals today. I'm going to talk a little bit about
for everything you do and the way that you care and nurture the children and prepare them for middle school, the fifth graders heading off to middle school. Thank you. So does that conclude your reports, correct?
We're all set, yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Mr. Volleson?
Thank you, Mrs. Mahalis. This evening, I have 3 resolutions for your consideration. We'll start off with the General Fund Financial Report, this being for March of 2025. And in March, our revenues exceeded expenditures by approximately $4.7 million, which will increase our general fund cash balance to about $23.4 million, 9 months into the fiscal year. In March, our revenues were about 33% lower than projected, and expenditures about 2.87% greater. The big thing on the revenue side, we got the balance of our first half 2024 real estate receipts from Portage County to the tune of about $7.2 million, and an additional tangible personal property taxes for public utilities of a little over $1 million. The receipts were $4.3 million less than projected. However, if you remember last month, from the tax advances, we received about $4.6 million more than what was projected. So basically, things have evened out. We'll receive our Summit County settlement in the month of April, which would conclude our tax receipts for this fiscal year. Also in the revenues, all other operating revenues include $103,750 in all-day kindergarten tuition for next school year, along with another $33,752 in regular education tuition for non-resident students, and another $35,458 for special education tuition for non-resident students, and these all come through our state foundation. And by and large, these students are court-placed students that are in our district, and so everything just moves through the foundation. Expenditure side, just of note, the other objects includes $354,000 in tax collection fees from the Portage County Auditor, so that's their cost, obviously, in going through and collecting the delinquent taxes, processing all the tax bills, and obviously getting the money to the districts. So thus far for the fiscal year, our revenues are about $205,000 greater than projected, and expenditures about $270,000 less, or also, greater than projected, which gives us an unfavorable variance of about $65,000 9 months into the fiscal year. So by and large, we're pretty much right on projection for the year. And that is Exhibit D1.
Okay. D1 is a resolution to approve financial statements and reports. May I have a motion, please?
Second.
Are there any comments or questions for Mr. Volleson? All right, please call the roll.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes.
Mr. Acom?
Yes.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
And Mr. Sobolski?
Yes.
Exhibit D2, and this is a resolution to accept the audit report. This is from July 1, 2023 through June 30, 2024. And we received on a modified opinion audit for the year, which is the best audit that you could get, so no issues to speak of. So, great audit for the district, and really what it means is our financial statements are presented fairly in all material aspects, showing the financial position of the school district. Thanks obviously go to my staff, Diane Eby, Pam Petraska, Heather Stask, and along with the administrators, Mr. Roberto, Dr. Milsitich, all the different high school principals, Mr. Magdalenico, Mr. Powers, who is here, Mr. Arquilla in the back, and all of the secretaries, because all of the work of this processing is a team effort again, and a bunch of different people are involved in making sure things are processed properly and accounted for properly. So that is Exhibit D2.
All right, a resolution to accept that audit report. May I have a motion?
Moved.
Chair seconds. Any comments or questions? Other than congratulations.
Thank you.
right, please call the roll.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes.
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mr. Akam?
Yes.
Mr. Sabolsky?
Yes.
And finally, we have Exhibit D3, and this is a then and now, and this is for LLA therapy in the amount of $7,819. They provide special education services. Again, the bill came before a purchase order was processed. We have dealt with them, and that just one kind of fell through the cracks, I guess. And this is actually paid for out of our IDEA funds, so federal dollars pay for this particular service that we received.
All right, Exhibit D3, a resolution to approve the then and now statement. May I have a motion?
Moved.
Second.
Any comments or questions? Mr. Volleson, please call the roll.
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes.
Mr. Sabolsky?
Yes.
Mr. Akam?
Yes.
And Mrs. Click?
Yes.
All right, all financial statements and reports are approved.
That concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to new business, we have Exhibit E1A, a resolution to accept gifts and contributions. We have, I don't know, is it J, did you say the letters, JAQ, or anybody know, Cafe? Having donated $100 toward the gymnastic program, and JNS Packaging donated $2,500 to the Aurora Baseball Program. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
We thank both of those groups of people for their donations. Mr. Volleson, please call the roll.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mr. Akam?
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes.
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Sabolsky?
Yes.
All right, without objection, I will take the next 15 personnel items together. I'll read through them, and then I'll get a motion in a second. Is that all right? Okay, Exhibit E1, B1 is a resolution to accept resignations and retirements. Exhibit E1B2 is a resolution to approve pay and employ long-term substitute teachers for this school year. Exhibit E1B3 is a resolution to non-renew contracts. Exhibit E1B4 is a resolution to approve the introductory appointment of support staff. Exhibit E1B5 is a resolution to award teachers a continuing contract status. Exhibit E1B6 is a resolution to award teachers a one-year limited contract. Exhibit E1B7, a resolution to award teachers a two-year limited contract. Exhibit E1B8 is a resolution to take notice of expiration of supplemental and extended time contracts. Exhibit E1B9 is a resolution to employ specialists for next school year. Exhibit E1B10 is a resolution to approve the leave of absence requests. Exhibit E1B11 is a resolution to award summer supplemental contracts. Exhibit E1B12 is a resolution to award supplemental pupil activity contracts to non-district personnel. Exhibit E1B13 is a resolution to employ event staff worker. Exhibit E1B14 is a resolution to employ support staff substitutes for this school year. And Exhibit E1B15 is a resolution to award teachers a one-year limited contract. May I have a motion for approval?
Moved.
Second.
Are there any comments or questions? All right, Mr. Volleson, please call the roll.
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes.
Mr. Akam?
Yes.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mr. Sabolsky?
Yes.
Resolutions are approved. Next, we have Exhibit E1B16, which is a resolution to award a new administrator contract to Ashley Pachulewski. May I have a motion for approval, please?
Moved.
Second.
Mr. Volleson, please call the roll.
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mr. Sabolsky?
Yes.
Mr. Akam?
Yes.
All right, well, welcome, Ashley. I watched your AI-generated appreciation video and was very impressed with it. And it just seems, judging from that, that you are clearly in line with our vision and our goals. So we welcome you and are excited to see what you'll do. Would you like to say anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to say,
That way we can pick you up.
I want to send my deepest gratitude to Mr. Patel, Dr. Lawrence, Mr. Hayes, our administrative team, outstanding students, amazing staff, our Aurora community, and our Board of Education for the honor of serving as high school president. Our
17 is a resolution to terminate the employment of one support staff member. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Any comments, questions? Mr. Volleson, please call the roll.
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes.
Mr. Akam?
Yes.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mr. Sobolski?
Yes.
All right, that concludes our personnel resolutions. Next, we have Exhibit E1C, which is a resolution to approve a new policy, DJC bidding requirements. May I have a motion for approval?
Move. Second.
All right, I ask Mr. Roberto to please talk a little bit about it.
Sure. As a quick reminder, we had a chance to see this a little bit, and the board had a chance to review, but basically, the state made some changes that allowed school districts to increase the amount of funds that they could spend prior to having approval and/or getting multiple, from the board, or getting multiple bids from up to $75,000 now. We don't go that high in the district. Ours was around $25,000, and this has this go up relatively the same amount, up to $50,000, where we would, anything more than that, we would come to the board for approval, but we will be getting bids on multiple bids on those purchases from there. That was the first part of this, and then you see a lot of green, which again, green in the resolution means this is new stuff. This is not really new to our board policies, but what we did is we kind of put all of pieces, parts from different parts of our policy in one section when it comes to bidding requirements. So this will all be on one policy now that will be a little bit easier for people to find and follow.
Okay. Are there any questions? All right, Mr. Volleson, please call the roll.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes.
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mr. Akam?
Yes.
Mr. Sobolski?
Yes.
All right, resolution is approved. Exhibit E1D is a resolution endorsing the observance of Staff Appreciation Week, which is May 5th through the 9th. May I have a motion, please?
Move.
Second.
Are there any comments? I won't read, I think I read through it last year, I won't do that this year. Suffice it to say that the board is very appreciative of our entire staff, administrative staff, teaching staff, and support staff. We know that it takes everybody doing their job to make it run efficiently, and we appreciate everyone for the work they do. And it's good that we can choose this week for the community to be able to join in with their appreciation. So we hope that they'll do that. Thank you to everyone. All right, Mr. Volleson, please call the roll.
Mr. Sobolski?
Yes.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Akam?
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes. And finally, we have Exhibit E1E, which is a resolution to approve release time for religious instruction. May I have a motion, please?
Second.
Mr. Roberto, do you want to just?
Yes, so just to remind the board, this is a part of House Bill 8, which is now in law. It's been 90 days since it's been signed by the governor. And we needed to have a board policy in place to address the concerns in relation to released religious time. So the things that are in this policy are aligned with the bill, well, with the law now, the bill that became law. So things like getting written requests from parents, being sure that the group, wherever it is that the students might be released to, maintain attendance records and makes them available to us to, to keep track. They'll also assume liability, and then if the student is absent from school, it can't be during a core course from there. So we'll work with the students to go like during, say, a study hall or something like that. The group will also be responsible for transportation, so that's not on the district from there, that's in our policy. And then I guess the other thing I want to point about here is that we are requiring that it's an option, but we are requiring that each of the folks that our kids are going to work with will have criminal backgrounds and records checks and things like that from there. So we're hitting all the requirements and then some with this particular policy.
Any questions? All right, Mr. Volleson, please call the roll.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mr. Sobolski?
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes.
Mr. Akam?
Yes.
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Okay, resolution is approved. Do we have no discussion items? Is that right? Are there any board items? All right, then I'll ask for a motion to adjourn, please.
Move.
Mr. Volleson, please call the roll.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes.
Mr. Akam?
Yes.
Mr. Sobolski?
Yes.
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Meeting